Hello, friends, and welcome to Your Daily Detroit. It is Monday, April 25th, 2022, and as we do every Monday, we're talking Detroit City FC, and the man to do it, Detroit City FC's longest-serving reporter, Fletcher Sharp. How are you?
I am tired. It is cold and it is wet, but I am here, so we will work.
We will do the thing, right? And let's talk about the thing. Hartford, 2-1. I was very surprised by that score, but maybe I shouldn't have been.
Yes and no. Detroit City FC outshot them 24 shots to 9. And if you watch the first 30 minutes of the game, it was kind of like watching Muhammad Ali take a rope-a-dope where he just took all these amazing shots from Foreman. Except in this circumstance, you'd rather be Ali than Foreman. And Detroit was throwing so much pressure at Hartford. So much pressure. The first 10 minutes was just their keeper making mistakes, not able to get the ball out. The ball just stayed in their half. And they just couldn't put the ball in the net. And some of them were frustrating where you'd see someone catch a pass and they'd have an easy shot and they'd elect to make another pass to try to be unselfish. And then it'd be a turnover. It happened a few times. And then unfortunately for Detroit City FC fans, Hartford struck back. Not on a counterattack per se, but they struck back and got the one goal.
Well, the reason I'm surprised by the score was I thought this thing was going to be 4-0, 5-0. These teams are so diametrically opposite on the standings board. And even if you look into it, yes, Hartford made a new signing, but you look at these two teams, this shouldn't have even been close. This should have been sealed up a lot earlier.
That was kind of my point. We're just 24 shots period, 9 on frame. But a lot of the pressure they were applying were easy chances to potentially try to score and just they'd one misplaced cross, one play here, somewhere else here. But I noticed that the defense was playing a bit of a different game than normal. Typically, they try to play the attacking team kind of straight up, man-to-man, etc. Against Hartford, I'm assuming probably because they're a little bit more tired, they tried to run an offside trap, which is when you look at the ball coming and as a defense, and one full unit, take one step up as it's being passed, try to force an offside, which usually works, but when it doesn't work, then you have someone running full onto your keeper with the ball. And on the goal, what happened, Prince Sadie crossed the ball in. Detroit's defense stepped up, but stepped up too late, and Rashawn Daly came and tapped the ball past Nate Steinwasser. And it was close, but it's a game you play. It's like playing with matches. Eventually you're going to get burned if you keep trying to move your hand over the fire, and Detroit City got burned there.
Let's talk about the core issue behind this, though, and that is going to be exhaustion. I watched the game. I didn't watch it live, but I watched on replay. To me, it is starting to show that short roster.
Yeah, especially when you have a team like Hartford who's not no disrespect to them. They're professional players. They're paid to be here. But when you're signing a 36, 37-year-old Ariel Martinez who's been out of soccer maybe for a year or so to be your savior and fixing your team offensively, you're not a very good team. And the fact that they held Detroit City's feet to the fire for as long as they did near the end of the game, that would worry me a bit. And it wasn't because they were just a better team. Detroit was just tired. You could tell that the players were tired. They were mishitting passes. They were doing a bunch of stuff they don't normally do because they are tired. And they've been playing a bunch of games. It's not good for them physically or mentally to keep playing as many games as they have. And they have to keep doing it because they have 17, 18 now rostered players. And 3 of them are hurt. So you have to just persist and hope that you can put through. And it's going to cause strain as it continues to go on because you're going to have if they can keep a team like Hartford in the game, I would be worried when they play against a team like, say, Louisville or Tampa Bay or someone else in that regard who's going to put the pressure to them. If you can keep a bad team in a game, they might get snowed over.
This might sound strange to listeners, but follow me here. The MLS kind of deadline for player moves is May 4th. Could there be an opportunity for us to pick up a loan?
Hopefully. Loans, for those who don't know, are when players come from other clubs and play for you, and you work out a financial agreement to where they come and join you for the season, maybe half a season, maybe part of a season, then they go back to their parent club. It's usually for established players who fall out of rotation with their team, who are looking to go somewhere else and play and maybe didn't get a transfer through, or young players who want to go somewhere and get better from a higher club. So you might see a young, just drafted winger from an MLS club looking to play, and next thing you know, we'll blink and he'll be in Detroit City's colors for the year. Or maybe someone even lower than that. Last year, Matt Lewis of Detroit was sent on loan to El Paso Locomotive because they did not have any center backs and they were having a huge issue for health. So they signed Matt on loan for literally a week. Very rare. That's not typically how long loans are. They signed him for a week for him to come sit on the bench, maybe get a few minutes in, then come back to Detroit. So like we could see a loan. A loan would be very helpful. We have to work out some financial agreements to see how much we're covering and how much is being given to us to cover. But yeah, a loan would help so much. It would allow the players on the roster to breathe. It would allow you to be able to play your main players and not have to put some very green midfielder forward in the game who is still learning the finite areas of playing professional soccer.
And from a front office perspective, that doesn't tie you down for a number of years.
No, yeah, it literally gives you pay, whether it's half, all of it, a quarter, whatever you guys agree to. You pay for their salary for X amount of time during the year, and then when the year's over, you thank them for their service, and then you show them the door, and they go back to their original club.
That's very different than other professional sports.
Oh yeah, if you could imagine NBA allowing loans to happen, it would be wild. You have so many players saying, "I want to go to this club. I want to go to the Lakers. I want to go to the Golden State Warriors real quick to get loaned out, win a championship, and come back." So like it's very much like an interesting thing. Some countries, I know England for sure, have a rule about loans where if you loan a player out to a certain club, if they're in the same league, you cannot play against them. I don't know if that goes into effect in the U.S. I have to imagine probably not, but yeah, that'd be really interesting for someone to loan a player out to Detroit, and then Detroit goes and plays that team and get to see how they're going to handle against their own teammates.
We're going to talk about Open Cup and such in a little bit, but let's get down to the USL Championship stuff with the New York Red Bulls 2, 4 p.m. on Sunday at Keyworth. We will be out there. Another team that's frankly in the basement.
Yeah, the Red Bull have more of an excuse than Hartford because they are a 2 team. The Red Bull used to be pretty good. They had a coach before who ran an up-tempo style of play that like produced results and kind of produced some of their players to their number 1 team. And he stepped down. Now they have a new coach who's honestly, he's trying his best, but they're riding a 6-game winless streak, which includes 5 straight losses before a nice 1-1 tie against Tampa Bay. So like they're trying. They're led currently by Jeremy Raffanello, who's got 2 goals, and John Murphy, who's got an assist and a goal. I don't want to call them hapless because they're not hapless. They all know what they're doing. They have a few young people like Juan Castillo, who I don't think can even legally drink yet, but he's one of their starting center backs. It's a very interesting mixed bag, but they're not doing very well on the standings. So I would expect hopefully Detroit with some juice in their legs to put it to New York 2, especially if they're going to be at home. Like I expect them to feed off the energy of the fans and not cramp up if they can help it.
Do you think this could be an opportunity where we get some younger players some minutes? I kind of talked about this in Hartford, but I feel like this is kind of key right now.
So I assume they do this with Hartford just to get some people some minutes, and they literally did not. They ran out the same starting lineup they did before, and like the people who came in the game came in late, mainly because people were just tired and cramping up. I would like to see them start the brothers Tanyi because I think that'd be pretty good for their development. Plus, good to see them actually against competition who's not their practice and see them actually get out there and move the ball around. And if they happen to make a mistake or fail, then they can learn with it. The team like New York or say Hartford is like a good team to maybe try some stuff against, just to say you did and work on it and see if it actually works out or not. Maybe not a team that's a bit more competent in the middle and in the back. But I don't see that happening. I would love to say they're going to take some breaks, but I don't think Billy's healthy yet. I think he's close to being healthy. Brad Dunwell is definitely not healthy yet. Francis is still kind of working some kinks out. He was on the field for the game against Hartford, but you could tell a few times he made the wrong decision a few times, and his teammates are very irked with his decisions he made. Michael Bryant is very much stepping up. I think he should get a start.
Agreed, 100%.
You notice the team moves a bit different when he's on the field, which is no disrespect to any other midfielder they have, but like you notice they're a little bit more energetic, and I'm not sure if it's because he's coming on as a late sub and able to run around more, or if it's just his it factor. Which can be a thing in soccer, especially. So maybe he gets to start here. Who knows? Maybe Billy is healthy and ready to go, and maybe he gets some more time just to maybe work out some kinks. This is like one of the games. I know people characterize a Hartford game as a trap game. Kind of the same thing for this. I kind of hope they can make some rotations and try to figure some stuff out because they are tired. And I know they're pro athletes. I know they get water, hydration, etc. But they looked sluggish and tired early on in that game, and that can't fly as you go on against much harder opponents.
Speaking of harder opponents, let's talk about what will be a preview of what is going to be, at least if the fates continue as they're going, Louisville City FC is going to be our opponent in the U.S. Open Cup. And I'll share this in there with the idea that for the USL Championship playoffs, 538 now has us at a 69% chance of making the playoffs, which is pretty solid. But when it comes to the Open Cup, it's a completely different game. I feel kind of slighted that we didn't get an MLS team for this draw. I'm doubly slighted that we're playing a team that we're going to have to play 2 more times that we are within 4 points of. Like, I am annoyed at this Lou City draw in the U.S. Open Cup, but it is what it is, and that's what's happening.
It was either Detroit City FC gets an MLS team and they drive to go to them, or they host. And if they were to host, it probably would have been a USL Championship team. After talking to a few journalists who had some inside knowledge, it's basically the team in their pot were FC Cincinnati, New England Revolution, and Louisville City. And only Detroit and New England applied to host. Other teams did not really apply to host or try to work that hard to host, which is why those 2 got it. The other 2 did not.
Okay.
I'm happy for them because they get another chance to show off Keyworth on a national stage. But if I'm a very sensible, rational fan who wants to be as straightforward as possible, if they lose to Louisville, it's not the end of the world for me. Like, I want them to beat every team they play if I'm a fan, especially if they're going to play the team later, maybe send a message. But U.S. Open Cup matches, ultimately, like, when you reach a certain point, when you know you're not going to win, like, they maybe they don't know they're not going to win yet, but when you know it's going to be hard for you to win the cup, you kind of take a step back and relax, especially when, you only have 18 players and only 15 healthy. Maybe playing an extra cup game a month, maybe is not good for you guys' legs. Maybe it's time for, I don't know, to take a little break. Just maybe take 1 day off that you wouldn't normally need to be getting all geared up and ready to go and ready to play against another opponent.
That's an interesting view. But I think that's the view that, frankly, most clubs are going to take with this U.S. Open Cup going forward.
I mean, that's kind of why, like, the Crew got beat. Not to say the Crew were, like, the better team at all that night. Detroit was very much the better team, but, like, they rotated their lineup because they were more focused on the regular season. And not to say that neither one of them matters, because cup matches do matter, definitely, or else you wouldn't play them at all. But if you're trying to make the playoffs, like, unless you think you can win the U.S. Open Cup, like, I feel like you might want to throttle down some of what you're doing. But if you think you win the cup, go for it. But the regular season is what matters the most. You could get to the final of the U.S. Open Cup and lose. But if you're in 15th or 14th place in the regular season, like, then what? What did you sacrifice to then be the first loser?
Fletcher, does it surprise you we're in 3rd? Because I'll be honest, it kind of does for me. Like, I thought this was going to be a lot different of a ride. Like, I was prepped for, all right, we do over 500. That's great. We get on the edge of the playoffs. Like, that is a huge win. Like, for me, my expectations were set there. I'm looking at us at 3rd going, what?
Obviously, the season is not over. If they were really the true 3rd best team in the Eastern Conference, their playoff percentage would be a lot higher than it is right now. But it does surprise me the fact they're 3rd even now. I figured they'd probably finish around 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, but even maybe early still struggle a bit. Now they're playing a bit more of their softer part of the schedule, but they're still beating these teams. A little bit of a surprise, just a little bit, not much. I have faith in them, but, like, it's a surprise in the standpoint of they could always fall down afterwards, but the fact that they even made it to this point is kind of nuts, especially considering the fact they have, again, 18 players, the smallest roster in the league by far.
I mean, credit to the organization, credit to Coach James. You know when you're about to go do a workout or something and you're like, oh, this is going to really do it. You get your pre-workout, you do everything. And then you're like, wait a second. That wasn't what I expected it to be.
Yeah, it's kind of how we feel at the league right now, where it's like we expect to come in here, battle, which they have battled. I'm not going to take anything away from the teams that they've battled against. San Antonio is definitely a battle, even though San Antonio won that match. But, like, they're finding ways to win. It's kind of the USL Championship preview page, or the weekly power page, was like San Antonio has a lot of wins where statistically they should not be winning this game, but they are. Detroit's very similar, where it's like there's some games where it's like, well, they should probably not be winning this game, but somehow they pulled out at the end. Whether it's, a random shot, whether it's the captain getting a nice toe poke in to get into the net, they find a way to get W's, which is the mark of a playoff team.
And the mark of a great organization.
You see the game, we still undefined. If they coming at us, they better rewind. Yeah, walking around with drip on me, gotta make sure I don't fall. I got kids that's looking up to me, gotta watch the way I talk. When they talking all that fakery, I just don't get involved. Got them praying.
All right, let's open up the mailbag. On Friday, we did a mailbag segment with Devin O'Reilly. I saved a couple of questions for you, Fletcher, because honestly, neither one of us could answer them. So I wanted to put them out there for you. First off, in the anonymous category for a question about Keyworth, do you think that we're still going to be at Keyworth in 5 years, 10 years? What is your energy with that?
If they are still in the USL, I see them being in Keyworth at least for the next 2 to 3, maybe 4 years. But I feel like even that's looking a little bit too far ahead. We don't really know with the club. Like, if you'd asked me at the beginning of the season, will they go to the USL Championship next year? I would have said no. And then you blink your eyes, and now they are the USL Championship's darling, and that everyone either loves or hates. So yeah, there's a chance they can be out of the stadium, but I personally don't see it in the next 3 to 4 or 5 years.
I disagree. I think this year plus construction time. I think we're going to see a new stadium. I think we're going to see one in the 10 to 15,000 range. I think that Keyworth's infrastructure is going to be a difficult one. There was another podcast, the ML Soul of Detroit, where one of the owners, Sean Mann, he's kind of like the operational guy, was interviewed. And I'm going to give you this quote. I think you're going to see a soccer-specific venue in the city at some point. It's something we have an eye towards. Keyworth, it's romantic, it's fun, but it's not on the same par as other venues in our league, and we know that. So I don't think it's contingent on moving. I think this end of this year plus construction time, they are in a new stadium. I don't know where. I don't know how it's being funded, but my gut says it's going to come up a lot sooner, especially with all of this media attention. And there's just deficiencies there between parking, bathrooms, all that. Do you keep throwing money down that? And I'm not privy to the details with the city of Hamtramck or the school district, but I think Keyworth's time, and I love Keyworth, I think it's very limited.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair assessment. I don't necessarily know if I agree with all of it. That's a fair assessment enough to make where it could be a thing. I just feel like a stadium is something you can't really do nearly as quietly as maybe, say, moving leagues.
I mean, it's either that or a major renovation of some sort and a major redraw. And it would be interesting to see that. I would rather see that, but I don't know the particulars of the deal. And that's something that I'm going to start to poke more into because look, I'd love to see a renovation in place. It's very European. That's what a lot of the legendary stadiums do, but I don't think that's politically a possibility. So, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong. The second question is, why don't we go to road games? They love our social stuff, which is great. And they wonder why we don't do road games or do the podcast from the road, because in other pro sports, there is a cadre of journalists sometimes that travels, depending where they're at. It's less so than there used to be. But Fletcher, why don't we do road games?
Money. That's literally it. If you want us to do more road games, we need money because it is financially very costly to go from A to B consistently, especially when B is very far away from A.
Mm-hmm. Like right now, we are trying to put together a sponsorship for a road game on the west side of the country, and it's thousands of dollars between airfare, hotels, time, all that kind of stuff. And so it's something that it is just straight up down to money. It takes a lot of time. And it's also time like when you're traveling and such that you can't do other things. So people got to get paid.
Yeah. And just to reiterate that point, money. That's literally it. It's just
we'd go.
The long and short of it, I would love to go cover some games in Tampa Bay or in Colorado or in New Mexico or in Texas, wherever. I would love to go do that.
I'll go to Virginia, whatever. I'll go to Loudoun or Loudoun. However I say that. Loudoun. Okay, I'll go to Loudoun.
I would love to go wherever to cover a match. I mean, heck, we might be maybe driving to somewhere closer like Indiana or something. But like that's different. That's more of a day thing. Anything that requires us to go somewhere and like be there and not be able to just be like, let's go home. It's going to require money and it's going to require time. And like Jared said, when you're busy traveling from A to B, you don't have time to do either, to have time or make money. So we're going to need those things to make it possible. So if you're hearing this and you're a lovely listener who wants to help, like, please help.
You know what I didn't ask you before we go? What is your score prediction for Red Bulls 2 on Saturday?
I would love to say something like 3-0. I would, but DCFC's tired, so maybe closer to 2-0, maybe 3-1. I think Red Bulls probably gets a goal, and it probably gives them a little bit of a battery in their back, and then I think maybe DCFC's players use the energy that is in with Keyworth, and it spurs them forward to add 2 more goals.
All right. Fletcher Sharp, I will see you on Saturday afternoon at Keyworth.
Definitely excited for it.
Me too. All right, thank you so much for listening to Your Daily Detroit. As always, we do this every Monday through Friday, covering what to know and where to go in Southeast Michigan. If you haven't already, make sure to leave 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to shows. And until next time, I'm Jer Stays.
And I'm Fletcher Sharp.
Remember that you are somebody, and we'll see you around Detroit.